Blog Talk Radio.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is another episode of True Conservative Republican Radio, and I'm your host, the man they call Ghost. And it's been about a week since the last time we've spoke to one another, and hopefully y'all are participating and tuning in once again this evening. It seems like I've turned into the big bad wolf just because I'm trying to, I guess, assert my Republican conservative viewpoints on this little forum here. I've gotten all kinds of hate mail from all kinds of left-wing, long-haired, liberal, bedwetting hippies out here. Enough of it makes you want to puke up, I'll tell you that right now. But enough of all that. We're going to be reading some liberal hate mail in a few, but right now we're going to be talking about this past week's results on the primaries and caucuses on the way to the White House. We want to know who your candidate is and why. Give us some predictions. We'd like your insight. We'd like to hear what you have to say. So give us a call. 646-652-4869 is the number to call if you want to chime in on something that you hear on this program this evening. Now, let me get back to me being the big bad wolf. I've had a lot of people, spew off all kinds of nonsense about me and all these little programs that are being produced on this little network here. A lot of people saying that I'm a bad man just because I'm trying to save the American family. Got a lot of slanderous lies being said about me, but, that's okay. Ghost is used to that. We're getting great numbers, folks. We're getting great triple-digit live numbers, and we're getting great triple-digit archive numbers, so all these people that are spewing off all kinds of nonsense about me, keep doing it. Keep flapping your little mealy-mouth gums about me, because let me tell you something, the only thing that you're doing is you're spreading my conservative Republican viewpoint throughout the internet. And as we can see, we have a couple of people in the chat room this evening. If you want to chat with us, go ahead and get back to me here at the chat room. You can reach it at blogtalkradio.com/ghost. That's GHOST. A lot of people in here this evening. What we want to talk about is how the race for the White House is going. We've got Hillary Clinton now, I guess in the lead, so to speak, on the left. Basically got one up on Barack Obama. And, of course, the mudslinging continues on the left. You got these people on the left always campaigning that if you against Barack Obama, you're a grand dragon. You got white sheets on your head if you don't vote for Barack Obama. And if you don't vote for Hillary Clinton, well, you're a misogynist, sexist pig. And that's the fundamental root of all these campaigns, and it's making me absolutely sick to my stomach. And if you're a Democrat, please, by all means, give me a call. I'd like to know why your party is resorting to such ridiculous nonsense, such methods of agitation. We want to know that, so give us a call right now, 646-652-4869. And on the right of the persuasion, all the Republicans on the right, let me tell you, I'm kind of disappointed as a conservative Republican. And I'm calling out my party, all right? I am calling out the Republican Party because I think it's been hijacked by a bunch of left-wing, long-haired liberal hippies. I mean, look at the candidates that we have to choose from on the Republican side. We got what? Okay, we got Mitt Romney, who's a blatant social liberal, who talks out both sides of his mouth. I mean, yeah, great, he looks presidential, but big deal. You got I already said that stupid idiot Mitt Romney. All right, how about Giuliani, a man, who I admire for, taking care of whatever he needed to do out there in New York. But he's a blatant social liberal, an unapologetic social liberal. At least you got Mitt Romney trying to backtrack himself. Here you got Rudy Giuliani, a non-apologetic social liberal. And he's not the only one. John McCain, another social liberal, a man who's soft on the borders. I mean, John McCain goes against the grain of the Republican Party. This man wants to put more bureaucracy. He wants to put more regulation. I mean, I agree with the man's foreign policies, but give me a break. And the only social conservative on the Republican ticket, Mike Huckabee, is a damn liberal when it comes to his governing policies. I mean, what is it with these contradictions, folks? What has our party what is it becoming? What has it turned into? I mean, I remember a time when social conservatism, being a social conservative, was the root of the Republican Party. It was the root of it. It's what kept us all together. Now, we've got a whole bunch of social liberals on the ticket that I don't even know if I'm going to even vote Republican. I might just stay home. And the only other social conservative, true conservative on the ticket, Duncan Hunter is being shut out by the party. He's being just shut out. I mean, this is a man who's a true conservative Republican. He's being shut out, and they're allowing a man like Ron Paul. Let me tell you something about Ron Turncoat Paul. This is a man, and I've said it, and I'm going to continue to say it, this man is utilizing the Republican cloak to just spew off his propaganda. And it's left-wing liberal propaganda. Anybody knows it. Anybody with any kind of true insight knows it. And while the Republican Party allowed this man to continue to run under the Republican cloak, giving this man a national platform to spew off his isolationist, borderline liberal views, is beyond me. What's going on with the Republican Party, folks? Are we losing it? I mean, are social conservatives, are they going to have to branch off and make their own party? It's ridiculous. Anyway, go ahead and give me a call right now. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. We want to know what you feel. We want to know what the average American person is feeling right now, why they're voting, who they're voting for, what's basing their decision, because this is very, very curious. I mean, I'm very curious about this whole situation. I want to know if there's other Republicans that are thinking like me. I mean, are there any more social conservatives out there? Any at all? Or is everybody sold out to this left-wing, long-haired, liberal, hippie agenda? I mean, is that what we're doing? Huh? I mean, is that what the Republican Party's doing nowadays? We're just going to accept the fact that, hey, you know what? Hey, we're going to have people with 4 or 5 divorces, and that's just all there is to it. We're just going to let people, shit out about 5 or 6 kids from 5 different fathers, and, that's all there is to it. We're just going to have to accept it. That's all there is to it. I mean, is this what we're going to have to palate, folks? I mean, is this the new America I'm living in? I mean, whatever happened to moral ethos? Whatever happened to that, huh? Whatever happened to moral ethos? There's nobody on the Republican Party side, with the exception of Duncan Hunter, and he's being shut out. They don't even let him on the debates. And yet they'll let this ridiculous lunatic, Ron Paul, get up on there and spew off his isolationist garbage. And it's absolute garbage, folks. Believe me. Believe me. Anyway, 646-652-4869. Like I stated previous, I've become the big bad wolf over here. A lot of people appreciate the fact that I'm trying to spread the conservative message, and yet I got a lot of liberals out here spewing off a bunch of nonsense at me. Once again, logical fallacies, 4-letter words, and that sort of thing. Wanted to read a little bit of liberal hate mail, and I'm going to come back and forward to it. Let me read one of these liberals that. And look, when I read these emails, I want you to put it in your mind that this is exactly what I've been talking about the whole time. The fundamental root of liberalism is communism. It's absolute communism, authoritarian communism. And if you don't believe me, let me just read you an email here. Let me just start off with one, okay? Here. All right. Dear Ghost, I can't believe there are people that still exist like you in America. Voices like yours are more dangerous to our society than drug pushers. I hope they pull you off the air to stop your old-fashioned thinking, you piece of blank. Signed, Deborah from California. Well, you know what, Deborah? Obviously you're a feminist, and you probably heard my little rant about feminism, and that's fine. I mean, that's fine. I mean, you can be against my particular beliefs on feminism, but you want to know why you think that my views are old-fashioned? Because the feminist movement has refashioned your appetite, Deborah, to becoming a subliminal prostitute. I bet you're the type of woman right now that won't get to know a man unless he's got a $20,000 watch on his wrist. I bet you're not the kind of female that goes out for a person's character rather than you want to go out with him because he's driving a $50,000 or $60,000 car. So you can call me the old-fashioned piece of whatever, but you can stick that feminism you know where. You can stick all that feminist garbage you know where. Anyway, we got a caller here from the 704 area code. What's going on?
Hey, this is ReadyWorks. We went around last week.
How you doing, ReadyWorks? I know you're a supporter of Ron Paul. I saw you in the chat room. I was waiting for you to call. What's going on, pal?
I want you, I think it would help everyone. It would help you and probably your listeners to define what you find as conservative.
Well, what conservative to me is, I mean, it's a conservative value. Like I said, there's two ways of looking at it. There's a social conservative, which I am, which doesn't believe in, 5 or 6 divorces, women shitting out about 8 to 10 kids from 6 fathers, that sort of thing. Still believe in the moral ethos of society. I mean, that's what I believe in as a social conservative, pro-life, that sort of thing. Now, conservative in the foreign policy sense and in the domestic in the domestic governing sense, we want less government. We don't want this bureaucratic garbage, all this bureaucratic red tape and that sort of thing. We don't want that. We want government out of our lives as much as possible. And as far as the foreign policy is concerned, well, I think that George W. Bush, which I believe is the greatest president in American history, he's redefined the foreign policy for the Republican Party. And that's a more Hobbesian realist approach as opposed to the Machiavellian realist approach which we had pre-Clinton. And it's definitely a long way away from what Clinton did, which was the pacifist approach, which is just ignore them and they'll go away.
Okay. Well, no, I'm not saying I agree with either. I was looking for a definitive ideology on conservatism.
Well, yeah, to be honest with you, sir, I mean, this is why I'm getting a little upset here, because I think my party is leaving me.
No, well, I don't think your party exists. I'm an independent. I don't think your party existed for quite a number of years.
Well, no, it did exist. It existed, before, that's why I voted for George W.
I don't think he's a conservative.
He is a conservative, sir. What are you talking about? Well, how do you go ahead and tell me why he's not a conservative?
I think that he's the most liberal, money-spending person that you could possibly put in office. How many bills did he turn down in his term so far? I think it was 3. I mean, the man has spent more money than all the presidents put together. Now, you can say the terrorism thing, true. Yeah.
I was just about to make the comment. We are at war, sir. I mean, not only we're at war, we're at war at 2 or 3 different fronts here.
But once again, though, you fail to realize that we simply can't spend forever. We're making money out of thin air. The Fed can't support this rationale, okay? Because eventually other countries are going to say, "Hey, why are they making pretend money? It won't be supported forever. It won't be supported for another 5 years."
Well, I think that people that make this big deal about the currency, I think you're overhyping the issue with all due respect.
No, and I don't. I really don't. I think you think the Fed can continue to create monopoly money, and the rest of the world will just say, okay, well, because it's the United States, then I guess we look the other way and pretend that they still have a lot of wealth, although it's not based on anything real.
Well, to be honest with you, sir, I mean, what we need to do as Americans, we need to cut this entitlement society that we've created.
Okay, I understand that.
And I understand what you're saying, that, we are spending a lot for the war on terror, but we are at war. I mean, we can't neglect this any longer. I mean, we had the pacifist approach during the Clinton administration.
What you're not understanding is, on paper, right now, we're $8 trillion in. But because of the spending that's going to happen because of Social Security and all the retirement funds that we've obligated ourselves to pay for, we're $58 trillion in.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We need to get rid of all that garbage. I mean, nothing needs to be entitled.
For one thing, how do you get rid of these people paid for it already?
Well, you have to do something about it. I thought Bush did something like I had a proposal that was decent and privatized Social Security.
Sir, if we spent every dollar we had, for instance, say we got taxed 100%, we could not pull ourselves out of the current situation. If we took every dollar that we make.
But, you see, I understand your argument, but you see, you're speaking from a Ron Paul perspective, and Ron Paul believes that we should just make it our priority to solve the deficit problem within, he's talking about within an instant, and within an instant probably means to me within 10 years. You know how devastating that would be to our economy?
And I think what you're missing is it's eventually catching up to us either way. You can either say, well, I got to eat the vegetables now, or I got to eat a crop of vegetables for the rest of my life. There's no, you can't pull the punch anymore.
Well, what's the solution, sir? I hear a lot of, with all due respect, I'm not disrespecting you as a Ron Paul supporter. It's your right to do so.
Let's take that out. Let's not even talk about.
Well, no, because I know that's where you're coming from. That's why I'm asking you, what's your solution? Don't regurgitate what Ron Paul says, because you have to know. If you're any kind of a student of economics, you have to know that that's a doom for disaster, what he's proposing. You got to know that the economic ramifications of what he's suggesting is not. You thought the Great Depression was bad in World War II during that time. That's nothing to compare to what he's planning on doing if he takes office.
Well, and I don't think that'll get to that point, because I'm thinking the powers that be won't ever let that happen. I don't think that's not my concern. My concern is, okay, let's say that he's not in, okay, which is fine. You know what I'm saying? My concern is the fact that you simply can't pretend you have wealth that you don't actually have. You cannot spend $2.2 billion and expect the Chinese to support your war every day of your life, and to expect that's not going to come back and bite you in the ass. So I guess the question is, I don't know if I have an answer. I know that you have to do something.
Well, yeah, absolutely, and that's why I'm asking you, sir, that, you keep bringing up this problem.
Okay.
And yet I don't hear a solution. Every time I bring up a problem, I try to attempt to facilitate a solution. Whether a lot of people have suggested I'm an extremist, but at least I'm posing a solution.
And I'm saying you're not an extremist. In fact, you don't like extreme ideology, and you don't even like, I don't think, relatively conservative ideology.
Well, I disagree with you on that. I'm a true social conservative, sir. I'm a conservative in the truest sense. That's why the program is called True Conservative Republican Radio.
Right.
To be honest with you, I think my party has left by the wayside. I think it's been infiltrated by a bunch of closet social liberals, and that's why you're having such wishy-washy type of.
No, because I'm not a Republican or a Democrat, and I know that your party's run by neocons, which by definition were ex-Democrats. What I'm saying is, I don't think that other than radical and possibly devastating ideologies will work. It's going to get rough either way. The thing about it is, do you want it to get rough and try to figure it out now, or do you want to wait 5 years until the dollar just completely plummets, which everyone says, no, the Fed will keep it. It's no longer up to the Fed because it's a world economy now. All right, and you know what? The Fed can only do so much. You know what? When we weren't trading or borrowing $2 billion a day from other countries to stabilize our economy, then yes, you could say the Fed will always come to our rescue. Yes, but they can't open up these windows anymore and protect us. It's no longer up to them. It's too big of an economy.
Okay, so what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that, if anything, and I'm not saying Ron Paul, but at least he's saying, listen, we have to make a dramatic change in our fiscal or currency.
So are you suggesting the gold standard?
And I know that sounds crazy. I think that money should be backed by something of value.
Do you remember? I don't know if you're a student of history, but do you remember the last time we attempted to do the gold standard?
It was up until the 70s.
I'm sorry?
The gold standard went out in the 70s.
Yeah, and it plummeted our currency down to pretty much nil.
Right, but there's no distinction. But I also understand that there was also a lot of factors at that point in time that had a lot to do with it. The thing about it is, right now that our economy is run by consumer-based, we basically make our own economy by consumer spending.
Well, that I can agree with.
Right.
Okay.
Well, I mean, here's the thing is, once people figure out that the dollar's dropping and they start trying to save, which, it's a catch-22. You can't save money and keep the dollar from falling. Obviously, everyone knows if you save money, the dollar is doomed to fail.
Okay.
Because, you know what I'm saying? What I'm saying is also you give corporations all these, people say, well, you can let these corporations come and go as they please. They make their wealth in America, and then they go diversify to other countries to exploit their labor, and then we let them bounce too.
Well, I disagree with that as well. As a matter of fact, I think that the way the structure is set up as far as the taxes are concerned, I think that we actually induce multinational corporations based out of the United States. Now, there is another flip side of that coin. We did sign a horrible trade deal in 1973, probably one of the worst deals in contractual history. And if you read into that deal, you'll understand why we have such an off balance of trade with most of the countries that we trade with currently. And I think that we need a president that's going to go back to the negotiating table with some of these countries so we can kind of stable out the balance of trade. I mean, you know that China, they've devalued their currency so much. That's why that's why their goods are that much cheaper. And on top of which, whenever they export out into America, let's say they have some sort of widget that they manufacture. To export the widget, once it gets to the United States ports, let's just say that widget is taxed $15. Well, the Chinese government gives that same $15 back to the manufacturer that produced the good in China, so in essence they're not paying any taxes anyway. And it's one of the most lopsided deals of all time. So I think we need to go back to the negotiating table with China and a whole other array of countries.
Well, what exactly do we have to negotiate with? We have a weak dollar. And we don't export much of anything.
Well, we're the ones that basically consume their goods that they manufacture. I mean, in my view, I think if we stopped, if we threatened to stop, I guess, purchasing their exported goods, I mean, that'll cripple their makeshift communist economy as well. I mean, I just don't, remember, we consume most of the goods in the international community, just as you said yourself. I mean, we're a consuming society.
I agree.
But what we need to do is to, this is where you and I agree. I think we need to start producing something in America once again. But I think that the reason we're not producing anything is because there's no financial incentive for an entrepreneur or a venture capitalist or a corporation to do so. I mean, you've got a situation in America where, the American work ethic has gone down the tubes, and I'm not disrespecting any American in that sense, but...
Okay, and I'll disagree with you there, actually. I don't think that people are lazy or dumb or...
Absolutely, I disagree with you, sir. I mean, we've raised an entitlement generation. I mean, you've got a whole populace of people in the United States now that are touting handout health care.
To a certain extent, I mean, I can understand, but here's the problem, though. I don't see that there's a great economy for them to go find work. And okay, I guess I should say this. I worked, and I've worked. There was times in my life where I worked 60 to 80-hour weeks. Did I become rich? No, I was just above the level. I could pay the rent. You know what I'm saying? Or I could do it for that much longer. I don't think that our economy right now is supporting motivation or business expanding. And two, if you see what they're doing to the small business guy, to start a small business as far as taxes and insurance and so
forth. Yeah, I agree. I completely agree with you. I think that it's the liberal policies of bureaucracy. That's the reason why we're having such a retarded growth in our economy as far as investment is concerned.
But you were under the 8th year of your godsend of a president, and you're still saying, well, the liberal bureaucracy of what it is. I don't see one of the Republican candidates coming in and cleaning that up. I don't see it.
I can agree with you. I mean, I've stated that, and the only person that's even suggested anything about this economy, Duncan Hunter, has been shut out of the Republican debate. That's why I'm disappointed with my party. I mean, that's why I'm suggesting that maybe the Republican Party is no longer Republican, or at least conservative anymore.
Okay, how do you feel about the fair tax?
I'm sorry?
How do you feel about the fair tax?
What, I'm not familiar with what tax you're talking about.
Fair tax is where they get rid of income tax and they tax you on purchased tangible.
Oh, well, I you know what? I mean, I'd have to look into that, to be honest with you. On paper, it looks great. But we need to do something a little bit more different than that, just some kind of universal sales tax.
But there should be a universal sales tax because it's based not on your income. It's based upon things that you purchase.
True. But at the same time, you need to generate a legitimate amount of revenue so that we can continue the military-industrial complex and protect America.
Well, yeah. Here's the thing about the military complex is the fact the rate it grows. For one thing, you're never going to generate a tax. You'd start taxing us to death if you were trying to keep up with the rate of expansion. I mean, that's just crazy. I mean, yeah. If you're for smaller government, then you're not for the military-industrial complex.
Well, no, you see, that's a necessity of government. I mean, there's an element of responsibility for government to keep its populace safe.
It grows exponentially. I'm not saying it works exponentially. I'm just saying it grows exponentially. So, I mean, you can't say one without shooting yourself in the foot. I mean, that's what I'm saying. That's a catch-22. You can't say, well, we have to deal with the expansion of the military-industrial complex. Well, it grows so fast that you'd have to raise taxes.
No, I disagree with that. That's
why?
just.
Or were you able to borrow $3 billion a day from China? I mean, you can't have.
You keep suggesting that we're going to continue borrowing from China. Now, look, I agree that we've borrowed a substantial amount from China.
Right.
But I think that what we need to do, instead of continuing on this concept of borrowing, I think that we just need to cut the fat out of the government. And I think that we need to take drastic measures to cut spending. I think that we need to between you and me, sir, I think we need to privatize education.
No,
I mean,
and that's fine.
I think we need to take government out of education. I think that the government needs to stop funding college education. Haven't you noticed, sir, that everything the government touches, the price of it seems to go up?
Yeah, and I also agree with that as far as the military installation. And Halliburton and a lot of other.
So you would want mercenary military? Is that what you're suggesting?
We have mercenary military. What is Blackwater? Do you realize how many people are getting paid $1,000 a week to take over for military left-off? And that's why you don't worry about. That's why there is no draft. I mean, those numbers would be. I mean, it'd be astonishing how much is paid to private military.
Oh, I can imagine, but at the same time, we still have a military that pledges their oath to the United States of America.
They pledge their oath to the Constitution, which we don't abide by.
Oh, now here we go again. Now, where do we don't abide by the Constitution? Are you talking about the Declaration of War? Is that what you're talking about?
No. I'm not even going to go that far. What's done is done. I'm saying these are broken eggs. I'm talking about the fact that H.R. 1955 is about to go through, freedom of speech, anything that may bring up, or, if you talk about terrorism or you spout out free speech about anti-terrorism or whatever, you're going to be a member of, quote-unquote, a terrorist organization. I mean, it goes on and on. The habeas corpus. I mean, we can sit here all day and talk about the fact that we're losing rights every hour.
You see, once again, I hear that all the time, and yet I hear all the time, every time I get on one of these internet chat communities to attempt to facilitate a debate with people, I hear these same people that are arguing that our rights are being taken away sit online and spew off slanderous lies about our government, about George W. Bush, about the troops, and yet I don't hear anybody going into their house and taking them away. As a matter of fact, they're on there on a consistent basis. So how is this? I mean, I don't understand how this is taking effect, how our rights are being taken away. Can you explain?
Well, yeah, I can explain. So what are you saying? You're suggesting that we should let them pass any law they want to until people actually start physically putting people in internment camps?
What I'm saying is that I don't see where the people that are suggesting that our rights are being taken away, I don't understand where y'all are getting this from. I mean, anybody can look. I got hate mail. Look here. Look. Here's a hate mail I got from a liberal. Okay. You repuke bastard. Bush sucks and so do you. I would kick your ass if you shouted your rants in front of me. That was Don from Arizona. Now, I don't see Don from Arizona being picked up on any kind of terrorist act or charge or anything like that. So I mean,
so you're a conservative that doesn't mind losing his constitutional rights.
You're not answering the question, sir. I'm asking you, where are these people? I don't understand. I just don't understand what you're talking about. I mean, you're able to sit up on here, right, sir, and criticize the government, criticize the president?
Yeah. It's my constitutional right. Freedom of speech is.
I understand that. I understand that. No.
HR 50 or 1955. And then
but
once they pass that, I'll be considered a sympathizer.
Well, who's going to pass that, sir? The Democratic-dominated House and Senate?
Well, here's the thing: is you're talking to the guy who is an independent. So I guess whomever chooses to pass such things will.
Okay. Well, I mean, if it's passed, then don't blame our current president. Blame those ridiculous left-wing communists.
What are you talking
about? The Democrats.
It's a part of the Patriot Act.
Well, I know, and once again, we go back to the Patriot Act. You know, the Patriot Act was recently renewed, a couple of years ago, and the Democrats voted for it. I mean, they could have filibustered, they could have done something about it, but they didn't. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. I mean, you're blaming, with all due respect, sir, you're blaming George Bush, you're blaming the Republican Party, and yet you've got Democrats obliging themselves to this garbage.
I'm blaming politicians. I'm an independent. I didn't say I was a liberal.
So I just don't understand where you're coming from, sir.
Where would you like me to come from? Where would it be more?
I'm just asking you where your rights are being trampled on. I mean, as a matter of fact, you're on this program right now, being able to say whatever you want.
Exactly. What I'm saying is, okay, they take away habeas corpus, right? And then this will even affect you, okay? Say they 1955, HR 1955 is, and you start saying, if you say anything that could be quote-unquote, misconstrued as sympathizing with, quote-unquote, whatever they deem terrorist. And by the way, if you read the Patriot Act, many things will associate many people with any act of terrorism. Basically, anything that won't substantiate or basically agree with the Patriot Act, you will be considered someone that has to be reckoned with. And you're saying to me, and from what I can tell, that yes, that is how it should be until they start taking you out of your house physically. That they can take away any right you have unless they start actually pulling you from your house, that's okay.
Well, I just don't see it. You see, that's my argument. I mean, you can sit here and tell me this, and yet I'm an American. I'm saying a lot of things that obviously people don't agree with. I'm a bad guy to most folks. I mean, you're saying everything that you want to say on this program. I just don't see what you're talking about. Now, do I agree with certain elements of the Patriot Act? No. But at the same time, the Democrats allowed it to continue to go through. I mean, I don't understand. I mean, if you want a difference, why don't you go write your congressman, sir, or write your senator and say, look, why don't you vote against it?
I do. I have.
And what's the response?
I don't get one. There's no response.
Well, why don't you continue to try? Why don't you call? Why don't you go to the press?
I'm sure that they're sitting somewhere right now reading it, and I will, I guess.
Oh, seriously, I'm not being facetious. Go out to the press. Say, hey, look, my congressman's not listening to me. I mean, believe me. I mean, if you make enough noise, they'll go out there and they'll go to your house and say, okay, sorry, sir, didn't mean to ignore you. What's the problem?
Unless, of course, HR 1955 is passed, and then they'll say, actually, that's against the law.
You're being a little facetious yourself right there, sir.
No,
come on now.
Not really. Read the bill.
Well, I definitely will. All right.
Write it down and read the bill.
All right. Well, I thank you very much for calling. You're always a good guest there, ReadyWorks. And once again, I know that we differ on many political issues, but once again, I thank you for your insight and great debate.
Okay, Ghost.
Thanks a lot, man. You have a good day. Well, so ReadyWorks, he's a Ron Paul supporter. He's called to the program many times. We're just having some civil discourse, and it's much appreciated. Obviously, I completely disagree with the man, but I appreciate him calling in, and thanks for listening. Once again, you can call us up, 646-652-4869. You're listening to True Conservative Republican Radio. And like I've stated previous, I think that the conservative, or excuse me, not the conservative, but the Republican Party, as I know it, is leaving the conservative movement. We're embracing more and more of these social liberals. We got a lot of people out here that are just unapologetic social liberals, and I don't understand it. I don't understand it. And I hate liberals, let me tell you, and they hate me too. Let me read some more liberal hate mail. This right here, it says, Ghost, you are a wife beater that probably has your wife in a cage right now. It's a woman's world. Get used to it, pig. And that was Jennifer from Seattle. Well, you see, this is what I'm talking about, folks. You see what I'm saying? I mean, this is what I'm talking about. You got these feminist, bull-nosed bull dykes, you know, because I'm talking realism about the feminist movement and how it's destroying the American family and basically corrupting the average everyday woman. This is the kind of garbage I'm getting here. There's no debate. No, there's just, Ghost, you're a wife beater and your wife is probably in a cage right now. It's a woman's world. Can you believe this? It's a woman's world. Get used to it, pig. See, this is what I'm talking about, folks. Feminism is rooted in authoritarian communism. You know, anytime I attempt to facilitate a debate on the subject matter, this is the kind of logical fallacies and four-letter words I get. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. You notice that all these people that are spewing off all this garbage, they're flapping their fat fingers on the keyboard and emailing this garbage to me instead of, you know, growing a pair, calling me up and facing me face to face. It's disgusting. 646-652-4869. If you're somebody that just hates me like all these people that I've just written, and there's plenty more hate mail, believe me. There's plenty more hate email where that came from, and I'm going to be spouting it off throughout the show. But just give me a call right now, 646-652-4869. You know, I just wanted to go back to this idiot, Don in Arizona, who said, you reek puke bastard, Bush sucks and so do you. I would kick your ass if you shouted your rants in front of me. Let me tell you something, Don. If you attempted to try to get physical with me, sir, I would stomp your teeth so far down your damn throat that you'd be able to chew your own liberal ass. So I hope you're listening in, Don, and if you got a pair, give me a call right now, and I dare you. Instead of spewing off a bunch of logical fallacies at me, why don't you debate me with the issues? 646-652-4869. Give me a call. I'm tired of people sitting here, you know, spewing off crap, hiding behind a screen or an email. Grow a pair. Grow a damn pair. Sound off like you got a pair. You Kentucky Fried Chicken grease thumb up the ass piece of trash. Sorry I'm getting so hostile, folks, but I tell you, these left-wing, long-haired, liberal, bedwetting hippies, you know, they're really starting to irk me, you know. They're really starting to make me really upset. I mean, I literally want to smash this damn computer into the wall sometimes. I just get so sick. Anyway, folks, we're talking about the results to the White House and primaries and caucuses. I understand that Hillary Clinton is now one up on Obama. She is one up on Barack Hussein Obama. And why is this? I have no idea. You know, I think it is. I think that finally people, since the last time I was on the air, people are starting to realize that, you know, Hillary Clinton is obviously a feminist, but Barack Obama is being irresponsible when it comes to this race relations stuff. I mean, this insinuation that if you don't vote for him, you're like a damn Ku Klux Klan racist is absurd. And I think people are starting to get a good whiff of it, and they don't like the foul smell. And I think if Barack Hussein Obama wants to save his chances as becoming any kind of a Democratic nominee for president, he needs to go out, he needs to grow a pair, and he needs to say, look, we need to stop this racial divide. It's bad for the country. It's bad for the Democrats. It's bad for my campaign. I want people to elect me because of my individual merits, personal character, and political platform. but I have yet to hear him even hint at doing such a thing, because this is exactly what he wants. This is exactly what he wants. He's taken a book right out of Karl Marx Agitation 101, and he's utilizing it to benefit his own campaign. And anybody who doesn't believe me, you're probably a damn authoritarian communist with him. And if you're a Barack Hussein Obama supporter, please, I want to know what this man stands for. I have no idea about what he stands for, what his political platform is, what he's trying to do, what he wants to do. All I keep hearing is this ridiculous word, change. What is he talking about, the change in his pocket? The only thing I know about the man is that he wants to tuck tail and leave Iraq, and he wants to open up a dialogue with a damn country responsible for 75% of the world's terror, Iran, and I think that's one of the biggest national security blunders on the face of the planet. It's disgusting. Absolutely, utterly sick. And every time I attempt to facilitate some sort of debate about Barack Obama, I'm a racist bastard. You know, that's what it is. You're a racist piece of crap. I had a Barack Obama supporter call me, last week, and once again, you know, I'm a Grand Dragon, I'm some sort of a David Duke character or something. It's just pathetic. Absolutely, utterly pathetic. Anyway, folks, give me a call, 646-652-4869. I'm going to read some more hate mail because it's amusing to me. It's absolutely amusing to me. Here's another piece of hate mail. You conservative piece of blank. I hope you get your loudmouth head blown off by a feminist, you misogynist scumbag. And that was from Linda from New York. Well, I tell you what, Linda, that's very, very liberal of you. That's very, very liberal of you there, Linda. Sitting over there talking about that you wish my head was blown off. That's just so liberal, isn't it? And, you know, the thing about these damn liberals is they want to claim that they're so humanitarian. You know, these liberals want to claim that, oh, we're for the people. You know, we have compassion for the people. You know, we care about the people. It's ridiculous. Don't let these people fool you. Don't let these left-wing, authoritarian, communist liberals fool you. And if you think I'm just going off the deep end, if you think that I'm just some old bastard falling off his rocker when I keep suggesting that these Democrats are communist, authoritarian liberals, I want you to compare me something. I want you to compare a speech written by, and you can pick any speech, I don't care what it is. You pick a speech written by Fidel Castro, Hugo Chavez, any one of those communist freaks. You get one of those speeches and you compare it to a Barack Hussein Obama speech. You compare a Fidel Castro speech to a Hillary Clinton speech or a John Edwards speech, and that's a goddamn carbon copy. You know it, I know it. It's a damn carbon copy. And you want to know why it's a carbon copy, folks? It's because liberalism is communism. That's all there is to it. Liberalism is communism. That is all there is to it. And you notice that if you disagree with the liberals, if you disagree with a liberal, I mean, they'll just start, the personal attacks and the logical fallacies. I mean, they'll do whatever it takes to suppress your political viewpoint because that's the job of the liberal. To agitate. That's the job of the liberal, to agitate. And it's just sad that I'm living in a day and age, 2008, we're in the new millennium, and we're still seeing this method of agitation being used by the Democrats. And if you're a Democrat, please give me a call right now and explain your party's irresponsibility. Give me a call, 646-652-4869. You give me a call right now and you explain to me why the Democratic Party is throwing back the country in about 30 years in race relations. You tell me how it's responsible for Hillary Clinton to sit over here and use the gender card for her own political gain. I'd like a Democrat to call me up and suggest why. And you're not going to hear them call up. You want to know why? Because they know it's true. They know it's true. And let me tell you, just by reading this hate mail, they know it's true. I mean, they want to silence me already. I have this one person that wants me pulled off the air, Deborah from California. I hope they pull you off the air so you can stop your old-fashioned thinking, you piece of blank. Deborah, California. Well, let me tell you something, Deborah. If you don't like me, why don't you just turn the channel? How about that? Why don't you go watch your, whatever you liberals watch, underground pornography. I mean, whatever you liberals watch, why don't you go watch that? Why don't you go watch that? Why don't you go watch oral copulation happening on every street corner out there in San Francisco? How about that? Why don't you go out there and watch that, Deborah? You're from California. I wouldn't be surprised if you're a bull-nosed bull-dyke from San Francisco. You muff-diving piece of crap. Anyway. Sorry I'm getting a little agitated, folks. I just don't really appreciate all the agitation being thrown my way. And all I'm doing is just saying my political perspective. That's all I'm doing. That is all I'm doing. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Give me a call right now if you think that I'm wrong. If you think that I'm wrong, you give me a call and you tell me why. Now, I had the gentleman that was on earlier here suggest that our economy's going down the tubes, and, I can agree to that. But it has a lot to do with the fact that not only do we sign a lopsided world trade deal in 1973 that's basically enabling all this garbage, but we have an immigration problem. We have an immigration problem that nobody has addressed. The only people that have addressed it is Duncan Hunter and Fred Thompson, and Fred Thompson ripped off Duncan Hunter for that idea. But there's definitely needs to be something done about these borders. I mean, you got an influx of immigrants that are in the country illegally, that are devaluing the cost of labor, and yet nobody wants to do nothing about it. And, I got a theory. I got a theory why nobody wants to do nothing about it. Let me explain to you something. Haven't you noticed that the people that were agitating these immigrants during the time that you had all those immigrant, marches and, all those immigrant, you remember that, riots and all that garbage in California, you saw the police beating them up or whatever the case might be. Well, the liberal agitators of this, I think there's an underlying reason for it. I recently read that it's something, I said last week it was about 12 million illegals. I read it was somewhere near 20 to 25 million illegals. 20 to 25 million. Now, you got to think that the people that are advocating and touting amnesty, the Democrats, I think, in my opinion, the reason they're agitating these people up and trying to, I guess, stir up some sort of a makeshift riot in the street type of civil disorder is because the Democrats want these people in their pocket. They are trying to make a permanent underclass, and this is my opinion. They are trying to make a permanent underclass that they can give all these government entitlements to. Everything from handout health care to free housing, free whatever, anything that it takes to make those 25 million people citizens so they can always vote for the Democrats. Because they're going to maintain loyalty to whoever made them legal. I mean, and that's the reason why the Democrats are putting a humanitarian spin on this whole immigration problem. And do I see the humanitarian need for it? Sure. But I see about 100 million people trying to get into this country legally that are being denied because you got these morons in here illegally. And we need to do something about it. Now, Fred Thompson had suggested in one of the debates, one of the last Republican debates, that we cut federal funding on the sanctuary cities that supply housing to these particular illegal immigrants, which sounds like a great idea. Believe me, I'm all for cutting federal funding. I think we need to put a fence. Duncan Hunter suggested we put a triple-layer fence. I think you need to go a step farther than that. Not only a triple-layer fence, but electrify the son of a bitch. You know? Whenever they touch it, they fry up. I mean, you know, that'll get people stopping from trying to come across the border. On top of which, I think instead of fining these, you know, there's been a lot of talk about fining companies that hire illegal immigrants. You know, just fine them tremendously. I think we need to take it a step farther than that. I think that we need to get the CEOs, the owners of the companies that are hiring these illegals and that are paying them under the table, we need to throw these people in jail. We need to throw them in jail. I mean, we need to throw CEOs, I don't care what they are, CEOs, small business owners, if you are hiring illegal immigrants and you are paying them under the table, you should be in jail. And let me tell you, you start throwing a few CEOs in jail, you're going to start seeing these people not paying illegal aliens for illegal labor. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. And I'm sick of it. You know, there's somebody in the chat room saying, I'm so sick of hearing we are breaking up families when we suggest that we send these people back. Hey, look, it's not about no humanitarian thing anymore, okay? You can't compare the influx of illegal immigrants that are coming in here like the immigrants that came at the turn of the 20th century. You just can't compare the two. First of all, the immigrants that came at the turn of the 20th century came in here legally through Ellis Island and other such entry points. They were documented, and they were nationalized as citizens. And on top of which, they were coming into a situation where they had no idea what they were getting into. There was no entitlements like the United States is giving these immigrants. These immigrants are not only are they not paying taxes, not only are they devaluing the job market, but they're mooching off of our system. They're mooching. They're getting free medical care. They're getting free housing. They're getting food stamps. They're getting free education. This is what's draining our economy. And the sooner that we get a hold of this situation, the better off America's going to be. And you see, I get all kinds of, you know, different responses when I suggest something to be done by immigration. It's a liberal logical fallacy. What they're going to say is, oh, you know what, Ghost, you're just a racist. You're just a meanie. You just want people, I mean, they're just ridiculous. I mean, can nobody else see this? Can nobody else see that the reason jobs are going lower in pay is because these people are in America illegally? And because they're in here illegally, you got companies that are able to exploit these people by hiring them for below minimum wage, below minimum standards. It's ridiculous. Now, this is something where me and my president disagree on. He wants to, you know, give some sort of temporary workers program to these people. And I suggest let's just get them out of the country. And, you know, I don't care where you're from. You know, people are going to suggest that I'm a racist because I want illegal immigrants out. I don't care where you're from. If you're here illegally, get the hell out. Get the hell out. You're ruining America. I mean, you're ruining the American family. You're ruining the sanctity of men and women going out and working and supporting their families. And these are generations that have fought for this country, that have died for this country. These are the offspring of people that actually spilt blood for this nation. Now, if you're an illegal immigrant that wants to get citizenship, look, if you want to volunteer for the American military, hey, I'm all for granting you citizenship, my friend. I think that should be an automatic grant to citizenship if you go into the military and you fight and you spill blood for this country. But you're not going to see these people do that. You see some of them, believe it or not, after 9/11 and once we went into Afghanistan and then we went to Iraq, I heard a whole bunch of stories of illegal, or not illegal, but immigrant people who were trying to get their citizenship because they love America. I mean, they're willing to die to get in this country. And I'm all for that. I mean, if you want to die for America, by all means. I mean, you deserve citizenship, sir, ma'am, whoever. But they're not going to do it. All they're going to do is make however much money they can, send it back to Mexico. Or send it back to wherever the hell they're from. I hate to keep picking on the Mexicans, but they're the big influx in this country, unfortunately. So I don't want anybody to suggest that I'm some sort of a racist because I keep referring to them, because that's what these liberal, long-haired, bedwetting hippies like to continue on talking about me about. It's ridiculous. Anyway, I'm going on to more hate mail. I'm going back and forth to it. This is another piece of hate mail that I got. It says, Ghost, you are a dangerous man not only to the United States but to the entire world. How you are able to shout such rhetoric without being censored, it's amazing. Oh, it's called the freedom of speech, okay? Okay, let me continue. It's people like you that have the power of influence that made it okay for Hitler to kill millions of people. Oh, give me a break. And that was Jake from Texas. Let me tell you something, Jake. Don't ever compare me to Hitler, boy. Because if you do, I'm from Texas. We'll go out and meet somewhere, and I will personally stomp a mud hole in your ass and then kick it dry and then take a dirty yellow bubbly pee in it so you can look back at me with a yellow smile about it, you piece of trash. Hate people that are trying to threaten me because they disagree with my politics. But it's typical. I mean, this is the left for you right here. This is the left. All this garbage that I'm sitting here reading, all this garbage, this is what you call left-wing agitation. It's ridiculous. And I get hundreds of hate mail. Hundreds. I don't know if y'all are familiar with the numbers here, but I have over 150 downloads of one of my shows here, and you can just imagine how many of them are a bunch of left-wing longhairs that want to just spew off nothing but a bunch of garbage because they disagree with my politics. I mean, if they disagree with my politics, why don't you get up here, call me up right now. I'll give you the damn number. Here it is. Here's the damn number, you piece of trash, 646-652-4869. 646-652-4869. Instead of coming up here and flapping your fat fingers on the keyboard and spewing off all kinds of nonsense, why don't you call me up and face me face to face? Huh? Why don't you debate the issues with me or something? But you know what? They're not going to do it. They're just going to hide behind their little computer screens. They're going to talk real big behind a couple of sentences, and they ain't going to do a darn thing. They're not going to do a darn thing. Anyway, but back to the economy. You know that Bush, this is something else I don't agree with him with. He's trying to inject some sort of economic stimulus package. I haven't read the whole thing, but from what I understand, it has something to do with government money trying to attempt to facilitate some sort of economic stimulus. And I completely disagree with that. Anything the government touches goes to absolute crap. Go to absolute crap. I mean, just look at the education system. That's a perfect example of what the government's funding that's going to absolute garbage. I think what we need to do, and if you are supporting a candidate out there, I'd like for you to write your candidate, whoever it is, whether they're, Barack Hussein Obama, Hillary Clinton, John Edwards, and whoever your candidate is on the right, whether it's Mitt Romney, Giuliani, McCain, Thompson, whoever it is, I'd like for you to give them a call, write them a letter, and I'd like for you to suggest this to them, okay? Let me tell you a little story about old Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton likes to take credit for the fact that we had this great economy in the 90s. You know, he's really on his high horse all the time when he talks about the economy of the 90s. You know, he pulls his ding dong out and he's like, yeah, look at how big that was. But in actuality, folks, the reason that the 90s was so great economically has nothing to do with Clinton. It had something to do with innovation, technology. I mean, that's what it came down to. I mean, the innovation of the computer, the personal computer, became commercially viable for the average consumer, as opposed to previous, when the computer was out, it was basically sold to businesses and that sort of thing. But it was a computer. The computer is what basically spawned that economic growth in the 90s, regardless of what Clinton might want to think. And the computer led to the internet led to e-commerce led to websites being generated for content purposes, for e-commerce purposes. Then you had network administration, then you had broadband. I mean, I can go on and on. Technology flourished in the 90s. It flourished it. Now, what I'm recommending to whoever your candidate is, and I'd like for you all, whoever your candidate is, to relay this to them. What we need to do is we need to have a president that's going to organize something, who's going to organize the next great leap into economic stimulus. And believe me, it has nothing to do with spending government money on it. I'm just suggesting that a president should gather up all the great minds of America, all the great scientists, all the great innovators, have them all at this convention and give them one task at hand, and say, look, we need you brilliant minds to come up with what's going to be the next big innovation. I mean, what's going to make America be the head of whatever innovation that's going to come about. I mean, try to find the need. Try to find the need and understand what it is, how to do it, and who to do it with. And then what you do is you're going to take all the big fat cats, you know, all the big money men, the venture capitalists, the entrepreneurs, and you tell them, okay, we just had a convention with all these bookworms, okay, all these innovators, all these scientists, and they suggested that the next big thing is going to be this. Now, if you invest in this, I'll give you tax-free on it, on your profits. How about that? How about that, fat cats? I will give you tax-free on all this investment that you do, just as long as you help spawn innovation. And I guarantee you, innovation will come like that. Like that. We need somebody to be a leader. We need somebody to be a major leader. Somebody that just doesn't talk the talk but walks the walk. Somebody that's going to inspire people to do something for their country. And that's my take on the economy. We need another innovator. We need another innovation, just like technology. Don't let Clinton fool you. Don't let that piece of garbage fool you. He had nothing to do with the 90s economy, and it had everything to do with the innovation of technology. And we need that next innovation, folks. We need that next innovation. And the sooner that there's a president that understands this, instead of throwing government money at the problem, the better our economy's going to be. And I guarantee it. Also, we need to get, like I stated previous, we're going to have to solve this ridiculous immigration problem. And I see we have a lot of people in the chat room here. It's really packed. How you doing there, poor peoples? How you doing there, Ozone? Ready Works? Preacher Politics? EVNLDR.com, whatever that is. How you doing? But anyway, right now, I think it's time to say another hate mail. Now, this is another piece of liberal hate mail I got. I'm saying random bits of liberal hate mail throughout the show this evening. This hate mail states, Dear Ghost, you are no better than the Taliban when you tout this anti-feminist propaganda. Your views on women are despicable and vile. Kayla from Florida. Well, Kayla, you can talk all you want to about my views on feminism, but it's true. You notice how everybody who's commented on feminism on every liberal piece of hate mail out here, there's no substance to it. It's all a bunch of talking points. It's all a bunch of personal attacks, logical fallacies, because like I've stated over and over and over again, feminism, the root of feminism, is communism. It's absolute communism. It's authoritarian communism. You know it, I know it, so stop playing with your pecker shaft and saying it's not happening. Because it is happening. I mean, it is now socially acceptable now to go ahead and have about 5 or 6 different divorces. And that's because of the feminist movement. And, of course, nobody has stated that in any one of these hate mails. The reason that we have, females out here, shitting out about 5 or 6 different kids from 5 or 6 different fathers, is because of the feminist movement. It's because of the feminist movement. And you see, and look at all these feminist hate mail. Here, look. Ghost, you are a wife beater that probably has your wife in a cage right now. It's a woman's world. Get used to it, pig. That was Jennifer from Seattle. You notice that there was no substance in that? You notice that there was no substance in that email. It's all hate. It's all vile words. And all these people are doing is just proving my point. And my point has always been liberalism, feminism is rooted in authoritarian communism. I mean, just listen to the words. I mean, listen to these emails. Here, look. You repuke bastard. Bush sucks and so do you. I would kick your ass if you shouted your rants in front of me. And that was Don from Arizona. Don from Arizona. I mean, this is what I'm talking about here. Nothing but a bunch of vile words and hate. And that's what we got. Oh, and speaking of authoritarian communism, I got my reasons is coming in. How are you doing? I got my reasons. He has a show here on BTR. I happened to patronize the last 10 minutes of it. And as much as I thought that this man had integrity enough to allow people to debate, I was shocked to hear him just completely chastise some woman because she did not view his particular viewpoint. So you should have seen this man. I never even thought that he had a pair to even get that aggressive. I mean, he was like, look, shut your mouth. I mean, this guy was like, I was going to play it. I was going to play a piece of your show on my show there. I got my reasons, but I didn't because I've got a lot more liberal hate mail here. A lot more liberal hate mail. Let's read some more hate mail, shall we? All right. Ghost. Where am I? I lost my place here. Oh, here we go. Ghost, you are a dangerous man not only to the U.S., but to the entire world. I think I read this one already. How you are able to shout such rhetoric without being censored is amazing. It's people like you that, this is the idiot that thinks that, he's comparing me to Hitler or something. He said, here it goes. It's people like you that have the power of influence that made it okay for Hitler to kill millions of people. And that was Jake in Texas. Here's some more. Anyone who thinks like you should be thrown in jail, and you should be hanged for making people think like you, and that was Bob from Boston. Well, let me tell you something, Bob from Boston. If you ever threaten my life again, okay, I'd like for you to come down where I'm at so I could stomp your liberal teeth so far down your damn throat that you'll be able to chew your own liberal ass crack. You piece of garbage. You be threatening me. You don't even know me. You don't even know me. Anyway, I'm sorry I'm getting a little hostile, folks. I'm reading some of this liberal hate mail, and it's making me sick to my stomach. It's making me want to throw up nasty chicken grease and corn oil and cream of wheat.
It's disgusting. Anyway, give me a call. 646-652-4869 is the number to call. Give me a call right now. We were supposed to be talking about these primaries, but to be honest with you, I'm really sick of it. I'm really sick of these primaries because I think that the Republican Party has basically gone away from me. You know? It's gone away from him. I mean, look at what you have out here for the Republican Party. I mean, you've got a bunch of social liberals, and the two people that are social conservatives, well, there's three people that are social conservatives. The one man that's leading in the social conservative ticket, Mike Huckabee. Mike Huckabee is a damn liberal when it comes to his politics and when it comes to his governing policies. It's disgusting. I mean, my party is left me, folks. The only social conservative that's on the ticket that's worth a damn is Duncan Hunter, and poor Duncan Hunter is being shut out by his own party. It's ridiculous. And then you have the Republican Party, and I'm ashamed of the Republican Party at this point. I'm ashamed that they allowed Ron Paul, this liberal piece of garbage that is disguising himself in conservative clothing, how they allowed this man to run under the Republican cloak, all right? How they allowed this piece of garbage to run under the Republican cloak is beyond me. It's beyond me. Anyway, we got a call here from the 312 area code. What's going on?
How you doing, Ghost?
How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I was just calling you to tell you that they're getting ready to spend $150 to reboost the economy. Ain't that a great thing?
Well, $150 million. Well, look, I have to agree.
$150 billion.
Billion. I disagree with that. I don't know the full fundamental details on it. Do you know what it happens to be? Are they using government money for that?
Well, they're going to use the money to reboost, the economy. The president is going to sign off on the economy bill, and they're going to help people that got businesses and stuff like that, and they're going to give people more food stamps and stuff like that to help, reboost the economy because it's falling so down really, really low,
Well, don't you think that has a lot to do with, first of all, I've stated this previous in the program, that we signed a bad World Trade Deal in 1973, which is completely lopsided. That's why we have all the corporations leaving America and going and doing business in places like China, Taiwan, those types of places because of this World Trade Deal. And on top of which, we have a humongous immigration problem that's devaluing the cost of labor. That's why labor prices are going down. I mean, don't you think that has a lot to do with what's going on in today's America?
Well, it really touches on the basis of foreclosure because right now I was into real estate, but after these doggone foreclosures start hitting us all abroad in every home and everywhere you go, it really shut a lot of things down. It really did. The banks start going, bankruptcy, and they start, closing out. Then they start merging with other lenders and other banks. So really, with this foreclosure issue, with that, what that was,
the subprime mortgage.
Yeah, the subprime mortgage, that really messed us up. That really did.
Now,
who started that?
Well, let me ask you something about that subprime mortgage crisis, because this is exactly what I got my reasons, who's in the chat room recently here. He yelled at a woman because the woman was suggesting, and this is the way I feel too, don't you feel that there's an element of personal responsibility when it comes to signing your name on a contract? I mean, don't you think you need to read it before you sign it?
Well,
don't you think that has a lot to do with what's going on?
I read it, but, Ghost, I ran into one guy. He knew that he could not afford this because he had got a 2-flat brick, but he knew that he couldn't afford it. But they had cut him a $300,000 check, and his mortgage, it was like $2,200 a month. So he put the money up there in escrow to cover him for a while. So he went into foreclosure a year later. He knew he wasn't going to be able to continue to pay $2,200 a month, and then every year was going up. He knew that he wasn't going to be able to do it.
Well, that goes back to
was too tempting for him.
No, that's my point though. So, it's a problem that there's an element of personal responsibility when it comes to freedom. I mean, don't you agree? I mean, if the man knew he couldn't pay it, I mean, why did he do it? I mean, why did he sign his name? I mean, with all due respect, of course.
It's just like everything else, Ghost. He did it for the money.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. I mean, is this really, George Bush's fault or the government's fault? I mean, isn't there an element of responsibility when somebody signs their name on a contract? I just.
You're supposed to read the fine print, but see, the subprime lending loans really was a setup. It was set up for you to go into foreclosure.
Well, actually, it was the reason the subprime mortgages were offered as an option is because it was meant for people that wouldn't necessarily qualify for a home.
Mm-hmm.
And if you compare the rates that the people are paying on the subprime mortgages, and you compare it to somebody, let's say, who bought a house in the 80s, it's actually a pretty good deal. I mean, I know somebody who bought a house in the 80s that, when he first signed up, he signed up for 9.5%.
Well, if you said that back in the 80s, but now, you sign up at 6%, and then next year you go up to 7%. Say you're paying $2,200, then when you look up you're paying $2,500, then when you look up you're paying $3,000. Is it worth it?
Well, I believe it isn't worth it, but hold on a second. We got another caller here. Let's see if they have another viewpoint on that. 954 area code, you're on the air.
How you doing? It's Reverend Love.
How you doing?
I'm all right. I hear you guys are talking about mortgages, huh?
Yeah, the subprime mortgage crisis that's happening in America.
Mortgage crisis that's happening in America. I mean, well, the interesting thing about that, Ghost, I mean, if you look at it from an adjustable rate mortgage perspective, right now mortgages, the interest rates are dropping. So a lot of people, if they're in an adjustable rate mortgage, the cost of their monthly should be dropping as well. Just as if the interest rate goes up, their payment goes up. But right now, mortgage rates are dropping. I mean, they're going down.
And real down low.
That's something that's going to happen even more so because they're consistently cutting the interest rates. I mean, in about another 6 to 12 months, the market's going to turn around. And if the people who have these mortgages can hold on to their houses for that time, then they're going to be able to actually benefit from the situation. But the reality of the situation is they signed up for those loans. They put their name on the dotted line.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I always state to anybody who tries to blame Bush or the government, I mean, regardless, I mean, the financial institution that, that basically made the contract was just trying to give the person the opportunity to make a purchase on a home.
No, that's not true. The financial institution that put out those loans was trying to make a lot of money, and they did. Believe me. I mean,
Well, sure. I mean,
the fact of the matter is the banks are in it for the profit.
Well, of course. I mean, that's the foundation of our economy, though, is to make a profit. I mean, don't you agree?
Yeah, but you know what, though? I went across the building that was...
But you have to understand also that we do have rules of professional conduct in terms of like predatory lending. And I mean, a lot of the times there are situations where they did stated loans and no-doc loans that were just completely unbelievable, and that's just the circumstances of what it was. But on the other hand, you also had a lot of people out there that were watching late-night TV, and they were watching all these no-money down shows that they see on late-night TV, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, whatever. And the reality situation is those people make their money from selling that information. They don't make that money from buying real estate. You know what I mean? So
Sure.
They kind of hoodwinked a whole lot of people into believing that real estate was a lot simpler than it actually is. And believe me, I mean, when you put somebody into a 228 with a negative amortization and a 5% interest rate with an adjustable coming up in 2 years, they're gonna, if they're not ready for that, they're gonna get slammed. And that's the bottom line. And one thing you do have to understand is that they are trying to buy. The reason that they're scrambling the way they are, the government, is to save the banks. They're not doing it to save the little guy that owns that house. They could care less. The reality of the situation is when those houses go on the bank's books, it destroys those banks, and that's rippling through our whole economy.
Yeah, just like the Citibank situation. Yeah, the city
paying for that, man.
The Citibank $10 billion losses and that sort of thing. 312.
It's going to hit all of us, man.
312. Did you have something to chime in about?
Yeah, he's right, because I ran across a guy that I know, a lady, that I know her property shouldn't have been no $310,000 because the community was just really looked like it was bombed out. She had a 2-flat brick with a coach house in the back, and the rest of the block looked like somebody had came through there with a bomb. But the appraisal came out there and had appraised at a property at $325,000, which I know that was a lie. So like I told her, you had been had. And then when she was trying to come out of the deal, because her mortgage was almost $3,000 at that time, the building was empty, and people had stopped breaking in it, and she was trying to come out. That woman just stood up there and cried because she said that when she went to the closing, it was over 10 people in the room, and she didn't know none of them, and they all walked away with a check. So she was scammed.
Well, I can understand what you're talking about when it comes to the appraiser coming in and, marking a high price on the real estate. But then at the same time, that was the market at the time. I mean, it was just like the stocks. Do you remember the .com? Do you remember the .com boom when everybody would buy an IPO of whatever .com or whatever tech company, and within like 3 months it would triple its value based on the market? Well, that's exactly what happened in the real estate market. Everybody decided, everybody's buying homes. I mean, homes were on the rise. Home ownership was on the rise for I don't know how many quarters consistently.
Well, you know what though, Ghost? I don't blame the Bushman. What I blame is the banks and these multi-billionaires that are really into real estate, because in Chicago here, anything that's towards the lake back like 2-3 years ago, oh boy, it cost you $400-500. Now you can get a 2-flat that's close to the lake for $150,000.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you on that. And don't you think that's the market just basically taking its course? I mean, the bubble busted.
You got to understand, you got to look at the strategy of the whole thing. See, them people that's buying up all the property, now what they can do now, Ghost, is come in the community now and buy up the whole section. I mean, just spend $1 million or either $100 million, and they own the whole community and got it for a little or nothing. Because the longer the value keep going down, they can come in and just buy everything up dirt cheap. And that's the name of the game. They set this up, and people fell for it. That's all. So they losing their homes, they losing their land. And, hey, I met one woman, she was at a $40,000 mortgage. Her house looked like somebody had took a bomb through it. And I asked her, how did you get the mortgage on this? She said her grandson had helped her get it and everything. And I told her, I said, well, look, you're going to lose it. She was trying to get it to one of my partners for $10,000. He told her, no way. Because he wasn't coming over there because at that time, everything was getting ready to break. And on the west side of Chicago, oh, my God, you can go over there and get you a 2-flat over there and sell it for about $425.
Yeah,
I got a lot of partners that really got out of the real estate game and went and got them some regular jobs because they went broke.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the bubble bursted. That's basically what it comes down to. I mean, the market is just adjusting itself. I don't think that you can blame any specific entity, any specific person on that.
Well, Ghost, it was really created. They cut the small people out, like the brother just said. They cut the small people out. Everybody that was really getting involved and going in there buying property and flipping it and making $500,000 and everything like that. See, you had a lot of small people out there that had got, like he said, they had got a hold to the game and was making money. I knew some guys that was 25, 26 years old making $500,000 on one deal, 300,000 on another deal, and
well, yeah, well that was the market. That was the market at the time.
But they changed it. Now you can't even get you can't even get in the game no more now.
Well, yeah, because the market is just plummeted though. You have to understand the market.
But when they come back up, they didn't put new bridges in there to block people that's small, that's trying to make money by flipping properties. You're not going to be able to do that no more.
I completely agree with you, sir. We actually got another caller here. Let's see if we can chime in here. Hey, 212, you're on the air.
Hi, I got my reasons. How's it going?
How you doing? I know you have an opinion on this.
Shut up!
Go ahead. Yeah, very funny. Come on, go ahead. I want to hear your opinion on this because I know that you were stressing it on your show.
Well, just a couple points. I think Donald made most of the points I was going to make. But there's one thing that he didn't say, which is that these banks are being investigated for breaking the law. And the way they broke the law is by repackaging these loans, selling them to other banks, and saying that they didn't have bad credit in them. So they basically, like, the greed factor took over. The banks passed along a portfolio that included good loans but also included bad loans. They passed it along to another bank, and they're supposed to disclose that this package has some bad loans in it, but they didn't disclose that, and that's why they're in trouble with the Fed and also with state investigators. So,
I mean, but can you really point to that specific problem for the whole subprime mortgage crisis?
Yeah, because that's part of the bubble. The way the bubble was created is it's the same thing what you were mentioning with the
.com.
With the .coms, yeah. They overvalued portfolios of bad loans that should not have been valued as high as they are. And then and it was all based on speculation that the real estate market would continue to grow as much as it was. And if it had continued to grow, all those guys would be fine because they would have made their profit and the people would have been able to pay, and everybody would be fine. But it just took a slight downturn in the economy to make the whole thing crumble because it was a house of cards, because it was set up to make profit and to make profit. And this was my point that I was trying to get out with my co-hosts on my show, to make profits illegally. You know, there's really no excuse for that. We can talk about capitalism till the cows come home, but if you're breaking the laws that are currently on the books about your specific job, you lose your license or whatever, or you get in trouble. And in this case, the way the banks are getting in trouble is the government's coming along and bailing them out.
Well, I don't agree with the stimulus package that George W. Bush is initiating. I mean, I can agree with most people that are on the left and the right of the persuasion, but at the same time, I think the reason that he's doing this is purely political. I think that
he kind of doesn't have a choice.
Well, it's true. I mean, what's going to happen is that they're going to blame him for the bad economy, which I think is completely unfair. Because with all due respect, I mean, the collateral things that you set aside, I mean, people can read. I mean, they can read what they're getting into. I mean, all they need to do is read before they sign the contract, and if they sign the contract, well, then they're pretty much obligated to whatever's written on the contract.
Well, here's the point that I was trying to make, and I thought of a better way to express it after the show is over. Of course, the point I was trying to make about that was that if you sell a defective product, let's say a Pinto car, that has a tendency to blow up if it's hit from behind or something like that. Even if you do it unknowingly, as a manufacturer, you're responsible. So it's like, but these people did it knowingly. They knowingly made loans to people. They made their commissions. They made it look good. So I would compare it to something like that. I would compare it to, like, you've got a product, it's faulty. You know it might bite the consumer later on. The consumer is motivated. The consumer is at a disadvantage. I didn't mean to imply that the consumer has no responsibility whatsoever. Obviously they do. But the consumer...
Don't you think they have the most responsibility? I mean,
no.
Look, you're putting a lot of...
No. Just let me finish the point and
All right.
Shut up. What I'm saying is if the banks misrepresent the product, not only is that fraudulent, not only is that bad advertising, but in a lot of cases it's illegal. So basically, if I say the product's this and you should be fine at your salary, and this will be fine, and blah, blah, blah. And that stuff isn't really the case. The buyer has the responsibility to research these things and find out if what's being sold to him is true. But most buyers have the expectation, and I think it's the legitimate expectation, that the bank will, deal with them in a straightforward way, more or less.
Well, I mean, I think historically people should realize that, bankers are probably the lowest form of human life next to lawyers. But at the same time,
that's true.
But at the same time, I mean, you have to read what you're getting into there. I got my reasons. I mean, you got to read if you're signing your life away, or if somewhere in fine print it says you got to give your right arm or a leg or something like that.
I understand, but which is the worst crime? The one person that does that makes that mistake, hopeful that they're going to lead a better life, or the one person that collects 5,000 people like that to enrich their own lives? Which is the bigger crime?
Well, I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, our whole economy is based on profit. So, I mean, I don't see where the crime is. Now, if it comes about...
I'll tell you, where the crime is what the feds and the state...
Well, what you're saying is one bank...
looking into.
What you're telling me is one bank lied to another bank, so the consumer should be let off the hook. That's basically what you're saying.
No, I'm not saying that. The consumer is the one that's getting the brunt of the deal. The banks are being left off the hook. The consumers are screwed, and the only real punishment the banks are going to get is from these investigations. Maybe they'll have to pay fines, whatever, because they broke the law. But the consumer ends up screwed. The government ends up screwed. The taxpayers end up screwed, and we take care of the banks so that society as a whole doesn't look like it's falling apart, which is exactly what would happen if the government didn't bail out the banks. We'd have like a 30 style run on the banks, like go get your money before it's not there anymore. You know what I mean? So I mean, it's kind of to say I'm making an either or statement that means the consumer doesn't have any responsibility is misrepresenting what I said and said on my show. And by the way, all my guests during the show, while you were in the chat room, disagreed with your characterization of me, and I'd urge everyone in your chat room to listen to my show. I got my reasons.
Well, you can plug it.
Hear for yourself, because I listened to the playback, and it sounded pretty mellow to me.
Well, we got another caller here. Maybe he might disagree, or she might disagree. 813, you're on the air.
Yeah, you're right. I'm going to disagree. This is Big Daddy Frank.
How you doing?
Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I got my reasons.
You do?
How you doing,
do I know
buddy?
You? Yeah.
You know what? It's like a bubble. It's like you live in a bubble yourself. This is what happens in history. When people run on these little urges and these feelings about things, this is what happens to a market. The percentages are the market is still strong. Now, we have a lot of issues that may happen, and it's great that people are going to do something, but over 80% of the market is taking care of their business. The small group of
Which market are you referring to?
Wait a second. Let me speak. You've had a lot of time to speak. One of the part of the subprime that you're talking about is it's very true what you say. I agree with you. It's going to be a growing thing. If we don't get a hold of it right now, we will have more and more subprime mortgages that will fall. It's going to grow year after year. But that's not an effect just of the market. That's an effect of real world. We're talking about oil. We're talking about government. We're talking about terrorism. There's a lot of effects that deal with our money.
Illegal immigration?
That's right. You know something else? You got a great show here tonight. One of the things that affects the money is, I hate to tell you, you're always in disagreeing with a lot of factors with the government. But I'll tell you what, this December and this fall, we spent more money and there was more economy created than any other time. And the problem is, we took money that we were supposedly saving, but we paid more for gas. We paid more for illegal products. We paid more for food. And we still spent more. So there's a way the American public can correct it. And you don't believe Bush. Yeah, Bush isn't making the greatest move with what he's doing to try to bail out, but it's not just bailing out. The market is set. If you walk up to a mortgage dealer and you're paying rent in some stupid condo for $1,100 a month, then you're going to try every effort to try to make a mortgage where you're going to pay $900. And even if it's
build
a
equity
mortgage, they take a chance. So everybody's blaming everybody about the banks, but damn it, let's wake up and take responsibility for the people that signed the damn papers.
I agree.
I wasn't blaming the banks. I was simply making a statement.
I know that. I
was simply making a statement that they're under investigation for doing something illegal. I'm sorry that causes you so much
You're right.
discomfort.
No, what? You're exactly right about that. The ones that the criminals out there, I'm 100% for you.
Okay, so we're in agreement.
But reasons
not
with
all of it. I'm just saying that part of it. You're right. If there were, but there's not that many that did that.
And reasons, and you were saying this on your show, and you're kind of alluding to it on this show, that is the root cause of the subprime mortgage crisis, and that's why the consumer should be let off the hook.
No, I have never said the consumer should be let off the hook.
Well, you're insinuating it.
No, I am not insinuating it. I'm not saying it. I'm not insinuating it. It's not an either-or thing. I'm simply saying that the motivating drive for what happened is that banks saw an opportunity to sell a product that they couldn't sell before because it would have been stupid before. So they saw an opportunity to sell a new product to a new customer. They rolled the dice and they lost.
But
what does that have to do with it? It doesn't mean that consumers are left off the hook. It just means that they saw new consumers that they could lend to that they couldn't lend to before when they were following the rules. So now they bend the rules a little. Now they have more customers and they got in trouble. What does that have to do with the customers? I mean, the customers are...
Well, that's what you were alluding to last night on your show, or I believe it was last night. You were saying you were actually putting the consumer on the side of like some sort of lost sheep that just got, disenfranchised.
No, I was simply saying that the consumers were misled, and I think that I've justified that point on this show. I justified it on my show. I'll do it again if you want me to. The customers were misled.
He's making a good point about some being misled, but you're generalizing again.
That's what I'm saying, Reese.
What? Yes, I am generalizing. You got me there. I am generalizing. I'm sure there were some banks that told the customers everything they needed to know to decide, but a lot of them didn't.
Some. You know what? You're trying to attack. You know what? Let's put it down to it. If I'm renting a damn 3-bedroom and I'm paying $1,200 a month rent, and I make a decision because my local bank opened the doors,
right.
Bank of America says, guess what? We've got this great variable rate, and even if you've had credit problems, even if you got issues, why don't you at least pay for your own mortgage? Now, whether that's variable and it changes, and like the caller said earlier, he was making a valid point about how one point he's paying, a couple thousand here, and then he moves to the next ratio. That's fine, but you got to remember, when are Americans going to be responsible for their own actions? I don't care if you bait somebody to jump off the bridge. You don't jump off the bridge.
Well, look at an analogous problem, the credit card problem. I mean, are there any listeners that have never had a problem with the credit card where they?
I do.
Well, I mean,
it's the same thing. You take the credit card, you have good intentions, you've got a nice job, you're not going to overuse the credit card, and then you get behind on a bill or something like that, and you need to buy something, so you go ahead and buy it, even though you probably shouldn't. And then you find out, a year or two later that the interest is stacked up, and now you got like a major financial headache.
Well, with all due respect, once again, there are reasons. I mean, that's personal responsibility.
Yeah,
I think
I'm not suggesting that anybody be off.
But you're alluding to it, though.
No, I am not. I am not alluding to it. Stop putting words into my mouth.
Well, what are you doing by trying to say everything bad against credit card companies, against mortgage companies?
This is why you can't debate, okay? I am saying exactly.
I'm listening. I've listened to you.
I am saying exactly what I am saying. I am not implying anything. I'm not, there's nothing beyond that. I'm just simply saying that people get into trouble with credit, and that's it. And there's many reasons for that. Now the banks like that. The banks like when people get in trouble with credit because they get to charge more interest, they make more money. Ultimately, they make more money. So the bank has an incentive to send you something in the mail, which I'm sure all of us get stacks of this stuff. The bank has an incentive to send you something to say, hey, get a new credit card.
Yeah, we understand that, but
right.
I don't understand the basis of what you're saying. You're pointing out all the bad parts of credit,
There's no basis.
the underlying the underlying points of the subprime mortgage crisis. And with all due respect, once again, it sounds like you're alluding to letting the consumer off the hook based on, I don't know, I guess,
well, okay, if
unscrupulous practices or
English is not your first language, I don't get it. Like, at some point, I've made my point about 5 different ways.
All you're doing is complaining. All you're doing is complaining. You're first of all, you're letting the banks off the hook indirectly.
What am I complaining about? I don't have a mortgage.
You're saying that one bank lied to another bank, so you should just let the consumer off the hook.
I never said that, Ghost. I'm sorry. I think I'm done with this call. Thanks for taking it.
All right, well, just leave then and get the hell out of here.
Okay,
Stop crying like an old... Stop crying like an old broad. Jesus Christ.
Hey, Ghost. Hey,
yeah.
Ghost. You know what? You're exactly right. I think when he's called up on my show, and
he's ridiculous. I mean, this guy makes me sick.
Well, you know what happens is this is what happens, and I think even some of the people in your room realize it. I actually am doing a show tomorrow.
Okay, go ahead and plug it. Go ahead.
No, it's actually about responsibility. It ain't about insurance. It's about, man, when are we start going to own up to our own responsibilities in this country? Everybody has an excuse for every damn thing, and we don't want to stand up to ourselves and be like we're supposed to be.
And that's what I was alluding to. I mean, didn't it not sound like he was trying to let the consumer off the hook with all this ridiculous garbage he was spewing out?
Yeah, you know why? Because when you jump on the bank market, the banking industry, and we can go all the way down the line. When we make decisions on everything we do, that can be a problem. But look at it. Look what happened this Christmas and this fall. Like the person says in your chat room, people are still paying $4 for coffee and lattes.
Exactly.
People are still buying gas for $3-something. People are still clothing their children and eating. They're still doing the things. They're making concessions where they don't spend somewhere else. And the thing is we're in a problem, but we don't have to dramatize it, because if we drop the floor out from under us and we all run scared, it's going to be just like what happened in the Depression.
Exactly.
You run on your money. No matter what China does, no matter what the world does, no matter how many banks fail, somebody has to come in. Whoever gets elected, and I hope it's not the other, then they have to make decisions to do the right thing. The government makes part of this responsibility. They have not owned up what they signed up as politicians. They don't stand and fill and do the job that they were set to do when we elected them. And we need to start owning up to our responsibilities. When you take an oath and you say you're a politician and you're going to run on this and do it, do it. Don't talk. And you say you're going to run the banking commission, then you run the banking commission. You make sure that securities and exchanges, that things don't happen. So these screwball companies like Enron and all these other jerk companies, Home Depots and stuff like that, don't screw the economy. The phone industry, we're getting screwed by insurance. But the fact is, even though we're getting screwed, we still make money and we still come out on top.
Absolutely. We got another call here from 704. Let's see if they want to chime in on it. 704? You're on the air.
Yeah, this is ReadyWorks. Listen, I got my reasons kind of making sense. I don't understand why you had such a... I don't understand what...
I was giving the man a time to talk. The man acted like I, just took away his pink purse or something, and the guy got all upset. He started yelling logical fallacies once again. I mean, did I or did I not give the man the time to talk? And then when I questioned him, the man just got all upset. This is what I'm talking about here. Right, I mean, did you not just witness that?
No, but I think you guys weren't too far off. I don't think on what you're actually talking about. I think you're thinking that he was trying to let the average consumer off the hook.
Well, that's what. I mean, look, this is Dex, right, or ReadyWorks? My bad.
Yeah.
Didn't it not sound like he was trying to let the consumer off the hook by just basically, he was nitpicking everything bad about every financial institution, and yet he did not want to acknowledge the fact that there's an element of personal fiscal responsibility when you sign your name on the dotted line. Every time I brought that up, he kept bringing back up the fact that, banks were committing crimes and lying to each other.
But here's the thing about it, though. With if you had fiscal responsibility, the economy wouldn't run anyway. Is what I'm trying to say. It wouldn't work. If you didn't have people spending too much money or more than they had, it wouldn't work.
What does that have to do with not being responsible?
Yeah,
you don't understand. The way our economy runs, if we're not spending or overspending, then our economy would collapse. To a certain
But that's
extent.
not being unresponsible because you overspend. No one has the right to tell somebody because they have a credit card and they're extended, just because you have a portion of the market that can't handle that credit card, that does not make up for the majority that do.
Exactly, and that's my point. And that's my point is that, you know, why is it, I guess whether it's government or arbitrary consortium of people or whatever, why is it somebody else's responsibility to basically allow these people to, you know, okay, you're going to get this credit card, but you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that.
Right, but my point was, and I believe you corrected me, I said that it was because that our economy wouldn't work unless you were overspending, and you said, well, you validated that by saying, yeah, well, you have. Did you say you have to?
No, I said I have the right to. This is America.
Yeah, that's
you
basically.
Tell me as a person that you're going to regulate what I do. Because we have a portion that do a poor job, or maybe they have
unforeseen
about
free will, though. You misunderstood what I was saying. I think that was the problem.
Okay.
I'm not questioning free will or what you have the right to do. I'm actually quite a bit for rights.
Okay.
Right.
I'm saying is the banks made it so where they didn't. I don't believe. And I actually know some people who are in this kind of line of business. They kind of sold them, you know. It'd be like selling someone a little bit of crack, saying, "Listen, you're not going to get addicted."
I think that's a wrong analogy because first of all,
I don't know.
No, well, listen. I mean, did they make them sign a paper, okay? And all of a sudden they kind of had some magic ink, and what was written on that paper all of a sudden changed into something completely different. Is that what you're trying to say to me?
What I'm trying to say is I really think that at the point in time, it was a very marketable thing to overspend way out of your. It was a very big marketing point to overspend. I mean, past rationale.
So that's what I'm saying. Are you indirectly saying that? Now, don't get mad at me and start yelling like an old broad, like I got my reasons, which I don't think you're going to do. Just tell me, are you alluding to the fact that we should save the consumer and let them off the hook for this? I mean, that's all I'm asking.
No, there's no way you can, and there's no way anyone would.
Well, then why are we making excuses? I mean, with all due respect, I mean, why are we blaming the banks and blaming lenders? And
because over the long term, if they'd have been more responsible, there wouldn't have been a bubble to collapse.
Oh, come on. Whoa, wait. you
tell me without
I think
the Fed,
some people live in another world. But this is the United States of America.
You're telling me without fractionalized currency, fractionalized, marginalized money, that you couldn't. I mean, why would you have a bubble? How could you have a bubble?
You mean why would you have a bubble? Or how could you have a bubble?
It's the market, supply and demand.
That's exactly.
I mean, you know, this is what I've been trying to get across is that, you know, first of all, this has been my argument against anything the government touches. You notice that when the market allows itself to, you know, fluctuate itself, all the prices go down on goods that the government has nothing to do with. But then when government has something to do with it, how come the prices continue to go up?
Well, what I'm saying is, in the same respect, you're for the Fed and so forth, and they're opening and closing the windows, you know, at their discretion. But yet you're not for the government having anything to do with it, but yet you're for the Fed because they make the money based upon nothing. I mean, I don't understand how exactly you could say, I'm for government, but I'm not against, you know, I'm not for government. I don't understand where do you get your balance when you say,
wait a second,
I'm not for government?
You can't separate government from reality. Even though we're against total government control, it has nothing to do with we need a government to exist. Because
Absolutely.
If I got my reason, we got you, we got Ghost and me and several other millions of people trying to run the government, we'd be in shambles. We'd be laying out somewhere on some island with no roofs on our head. The problem is you need government regulation, but you don't need to be over-government regulated. And that's what's happening. Every time they step in and go overboard, we always end up in more of a crisis than we are. The market will correct itself if we allow the people to do what they do the best. That's why there's a difference between Democrat and Republican. Because Republicans believe you cut taxes so that you initiate more spending, that you allow to have more liquid income to do what you want. And over the history, we've done better at that. Now, even though during some Democratic administrations we brought back our debt and put ourselves in the red, for the most part, it was at the backs of the people, and we ended up in more problems and more physical government regulation than we should have had. And that's what the difference is right now. You've got a market here, and we need not to sit here and give excuses for people that made mistakes. If you go to a store and you buy if I go to the Chevy dealer and I buy a car and they hype it up and they tell me all this garbage, then I bought it. I listened to the garbage. I listened to the hype.
Already works. I mean, what do you have to say?
Well, you're saying that this isn't the start. This isn't a precursor to a credit collapse. You're saying that this is just an isolated incident.
Okay, you know what? When you say a credit collapse and you talk like that, you know what? This is what I'm sorry, and I'm not going to get angry because I know it's not the right thing to do. You know what? Every time people start talking about these things, my God, I have done a lot of reading in history. Do you realize what happened in the Depression? Do you realize the history of the United States? When people start trends and feelings off of emotions, when they're not thinking, when they're not realizing the repercussions of the future, when we live for today and don't think about tomorrow, we could be on a total financial collapse. And when you talk about that, when you say that, there's people that talk like you, and then all of a sudden they spread like wildfire. And then people are worried about money. They start pulling money out of the banks.
No,
they start not trusting this
and
trusting
that. When we live for today and not think about tomorrow, that was just a complete contradiction. You said if we think about today and not live for what are you talking about? You're saying be fiscally or be financially responsible, or you're saying don't be financially responsible. I don't understand.
No, I'm talking about you talking about today. I'm saying you're talking about something that we can go on a collapse. Yeah, it should be in our mind. But too many people are unhappy with the world right now. Too many people are unhappy with the administration and everything, and they'll believe anything. There's a lot of people out there that believe in conspiracies right now that have no bearing or no sense, but it happens. And this is people that aren't really thinking and believing and researching and reading. You're going to cause a crisis when it doesn't have to happen.
Well,
we can pull together. If we want to change something, if you don't like gas prices, then you don't buy gas. If you don't like to pay $4 for a latte coffee, you don't buy it.
Exactly. And if you do that, the price will go down because supply and demand will dictate so.
You're damn right. The Arabs and all the other nations, if we buy less, and I know it would cripple us in a lot of ways, but if we bought and we pushed that market down, they will crumble to us. They will see that they're not getting that money. They need that income, and that's just not in oil. We're talking about revenues in this country. We're talking about we allow it to happen because we don't get together as people. What you're saying, a lot of what you're saying is great, but you have to pull and look at reality.
Hold on, guys. I got one more caller. We got about 8 minutes left. 773. You're on the air.
Yeah, Ghost. I agree with your when you say personal responsibility for your signature, but take in consideration that the banks, these mainstream banks, all these subprime lenders, those are just sister companies. They took money and moved it over to these other companies and lent it out on the subprime. I mean, if they weren't trying to cover up, if they weren't trying to do things under the table, they would have loaned that money out under their mainstream name.
Well, you see, and this is what I was alluding to with I got my reasons until he started screaming like some, red-headed, four-eyed, freckle-faced, beaten stepchild. What I was getting to was, why are you even bringing that up? I mean, we understand that maybe is an unethical business practice and that sort of thing, but are you saying that to justify the naiveness of the consumer? I mean,
no.
Okay, well, then why you bring it up?
I'm saying that's a backlash of the banks doing their thing underhanded.
Well, I agree, and if there's anything unscrupulous, I have complete faith in my government that they'll bring those people to justice. But I just don't think that really has anything to do with the crisis at hand. I mean, and if it is, please, by all means, tell me.
Yeah. Now let's just a quick scenario. I needed $500,000. You got $500,000. You don't want to lend it to me because you'd have to lend it to me at 5%. But you give it to your buddy and say, here, lend it to him, except you're going to charge him 10%. Wasn't that kind of unscrupulous?
It's unethical, possibly, but I mean, was it on the paper that they signed?
Yes.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, look, unless you're going to tell me that the banks were basically taking like magic paper with magic ink and having people sign it, and then the magic ink turns into a completely different contract, well, then I think that the bank should be held responsible. But if everything's there on the contract, don't you agree, and I'm asking everybody that's here with me, don't you all agree that somebody should read something before they sign it?
Let me ask you this. Have you bought real estate?
Absolutely, I bought real estate, and I looked at what I was signing, and if I didn't understand it, I'd get an attorney.
Okay,
I mean, isn't that responsible?
The bigger picture is, though, that at the end of the day...
Hold on, one at a time. 704, go ahead.
But at the end of the day, though, okay, let's say these guys, they take all these loans, though. Okay, that's fine. They lose their houses, and they should. They took out bad loans they couldn't afford. The problem with the practices of the banks is it doesn't affect the banks as much. It affects everyone in the economy, meaning people who didn't take out bad loans are going to get directly affected by the fact that the bubble collapsed. People with housing that they paid for all of a sudden had a drop in the the cost of their house. Like, say you had your house, it was up to $400,000. The bubble burst. Now you're back to $270,000.
Well, that's the market, though. Don't you agree that it's supply and demand? The market, it bottomed out. The bubble burst.
But that's not.
Investment is a risk.
I don't think that would be an example of supply and demand.
Oh, hold on. 813. Do you have something to say?
Yeah, Ghost. Let's say it's really. This is really talking about one thing. People get hurt by this, okay? And part of the problem with a lot of the people that got hurt, like in Florida, we're hurting. We're a thriving market, and we hurt in a lot of ways. When we bought a note for $300,000 on a property, we didn't get hurt only because of the fluctuating interest rate. You guys are looking at it like there's this bubble theory of I got my reasons. It's a bubble. You know what hurt us more than just the interest? It was the insurance rate for our homes. It was the gas prices. It was the cost of goods. Don't put it on the market reason. I don't care what it fluctuated. I paid triple in insurance. When it goes up from when my home is assessed at $2,100 for several years, and then the new insurance fraud comes in, and they assess my insurance to go up to $7,500, that's $5,000-something increase. That affects my mortgage. That's how mortgages work.
Okay,
and then you add on to it. Then you add on to that other factor, the other prices, what you pay for gas, what you pay for food, what you pay for goods and services. That all affects it. So when this happens and people lose homes, people gain from it because other people buy homes at a better rate. Other people buy homes with more equity. So one loses, one wins, supply, demand, the factions of life.
All right. Well, you know what? We're going to have to leave it at that. I'm going to leave you all with one last word, and then we're going to have to go because we're about out of time. 773, do you want to add anything?
No. That says it. Y'all have a good night.
Okay. 704? Looks like 704 clicked off. 813, you want to leave anybody with anything, man?
You know what? I guess I get too excited tonight. I must be off my meds.
No, don't even worry about it. I'm glad that you're actually talking. I mean, usually I'm sitting here bombarded with a bunch of left-wingers that just want to,
listen, I'm glad when I checked this out tonight. I just been through things. And I'm doing this show tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the Eastern Standard Time, and I'm talking about that issue. When are we going to own up to our responsibilities? I'm talking about a lot of issues with that because it has just not politics. We're talking about dealing with the money, with the subprime market, dealing with oil and everything in life. And you know what? It's crime. We're talking about everything.
Exactly. And it's going to be 2 p.m. 2 p.m. Central, or?
That's 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time tomorrow. And what's the name of the show?
It's Old School American. It's Big Daddy Frank. I'm the host of the show.
Good to meet you, Frank.
It's what it is. It's you dial on www.blogtalkradio/big capital B IG capital D for Daddy and then capital F for Frank, and that's my show. And I really enjoy hearing when I came in late because I was I was out tonight, and I got on and I heard you, and I got my reasons. Some people I knew, Reverend Donnie Love and them, and I said, you know what, I need to chime in on this. And then I heard him attacking you. And
well, they do that on a consistent basis.
Well, they do that on my shows and that, but you know what? The factor is sometimes you were trying to get them to think, and that's what I'm trying to say. The whole issue of this whole thing is that there's other reasons besides just the fluctuating rates. It has the economy and everything that happened.
Absolutely.
And insurance killed people here. People that were, even if their mortgage fluctuated because of that, the insurance knocked it overboard.
Well, we're going to have to leave it at that, Frank. I thank you very much for calling, my man. You have yourself a good one. And as a matter of fact, we're about a minute down, 56 seconds now. I'm going to have a show tomorrow, folks. Same place, same time, 9 p.m. Central Time. Tomorrow, I think we're going to talk about the war on drugs, whether this war on drugs is actually helping or hurting. I really thank everybody for calling in and listening. This is a great program this evening. We're having great numbers. I don't know if everybody saw how many downloads I had. We're in triple digits. And I'd like to thank you all for that. Remember, tomorrow, same place, same time, we're going to be talking about the war on drugs. Tell all your friends, tell your mom, your grandma, your uncles, your aunts. Tell them all. We're going to be listening here on the Go Show, True Conservative Republican Radio, and I hope to hear from all of you. All of you. We're going to be talking about the drug problem. Thank you all for listening. God bless you, and God bless America. Long live the conservative movement, and death to feminism.